To another episode of Joy Made Millionaire, episode number 11. I am so happy to be here with you today. Today, we're going to look back to the past. We did this a couple episodes ago where we looked at about 15 years ago or so. We looked back at this book that I had written called The Post College Guide to Happiness. We looked at this book and we determined that, hey, 2011 Brian had some good stuff to say. And now I'm looking back even a little bit further, which I think is going to be super interesting. And what I'm hoping to kind of determine is how long does it take? How much inner work is actually required to get you to the internal state necessary to build up your business, to grow your business? You can go to the chat and let me know if you are here live. I see Sandra. I see there's a few other people here sneaking in. So here we go. Episode 11. The team is happy. Kyle is happy over in the marketing team for Best Page Forward. And so I am just going to do a quick reminder that authors and business owners who are at a state in their career where they're earning over $2,500 a month in royalties or revenue, I have a coaching group for you. It's called Pathfinders, and it's mostly comprised of authors, but some of them are small business owners with a book. And I love this group. We get to really share a lot of great details. We really get to grow together. A lot of it is work-life balance related. If you are interested in finding out more, just email us at joymademillionaire@gmail.com and we'll tell you more. But hey to Charity May, hey to Kathleen, hey to Lucy. Good to see everybody. And so let's go back to the past a little bit. Let's think a little bit about, okay, those of you who've known me for a while, you know I'm a pretty introspective person. I am definitely the kind of person who is thinking a lot about my work-life balance and my energy and all of that good stuff. And the wonder is that something that I've always done? And the answer is actually no. It isn't something that I've always done, but it is something I had to work toward. I have always had this philosophy, and this has been for a long time running, and I see Andy couldn't find us on YouTube, but Charity looks to be on YouTube, so hopefully YouTube is up in some way, shape, or form. But I have always had this philosophy of, if I can find a strategy that is better than the one I am using, if I can find a way of doing something that is better than the way I am doing it, I am going to try it on for size. And this is the kind of thing of just like wanting to optimize my life. This is something, looks like Deborah and Mary Jo found me on YouTube. So it's there somewhere. It's there somewhere. Okay, good. I'm glad you found me, Andy. I have always thought that, hey, there's a way to optimize this. Let's do it. I am not going to assume I know all the answers. I am never going to assume that I know all of the answers. And so as a result, I am often looking for someone with different perspectives. And so it's around 2007, 2008, I am looking around for, is there a way I can stop feeling so stressed out about living up to my potential? Because I always wanted to live up to my potential, always a overachieving type at school, always wanted to keep learning and growing. In fact, one of the things my mom once told me was just she was worried I was always going to be a learner and I was going to have trouble applying things and doing things. And moms always worry about this sort of thing. And so it was around that time that I was kind of flailing. I was looking for what on earth could get me to settle my nerves here. I was, starting to do therapy. I was starting to read books on the subject. And I stumble upon this website back in the day when there were websites and blogs, right? Steve Pavlina, Personal Development for Smart People. And I liked that. I liked to think I was kind of smart. So it spoke right to me. And I started reading about some of the things he talked about. He was talking about working on his mindset. He was talking about working on his habits. He was talking about uh, he was talking about all of these sorts of things that I'd never even thought of. And so I was definitely wondering if I tried on some of the things that he suggested, if I tried on his philosophy in life, would that lead to me having success as well? And so what I found was when I was reading his blog, Steve recommended that I check out some books, including a couple of books that became really close companions for me over the following years, including Happy for No Reason by Marcy Shimoff, 50 Success Classics, a great book of compilations by Tom Butler Bowden. And then I was reading some kind of manifestation books by Jerry and Esther Hicks. And I had never read any books like this. I had never read any books like this in my life, talking about these woo-woo ideas, these spiritual ideas, these thoughts that you could actually change your feelings manually. I had never thought that it was possible to change my thoughts manually. And I have now, all these years later, realized you don't necessarily get better at not having stressful emotions, not having freak out moments, not having the negative thoughts. You get better at being able to manually raise your vibration, raise your happiness. You just get better at it through daily practice. And this is the thing that I worked on this for years, you guys, where I got to the point where I could raise my own emotions manually versus just being tossed about. I've read this idea that if you aren't controlling your emotions, you are just being tossed about on the seas of whatever ideas pop through your head. And how many of you have felt that way? That when a negative emotion comes around, you are just bounced about, you are tossed around, and you pretty much can't control it. I have felt that way before. And I used to feel that way a lot more when I had not worked on this. And so, what did I do to actually work on when a negative emotion came, not have it ruin my week? It might affect that day, it might affect a couple hours, but how did it not affect my week? And I started by just infusing as much positive audio, positive reading into my life as possible. I was literally drowning out the thoughts of negativity with these audiobooks like Happy for No Reason and 50 Success Classics and the Abraham Hicks books, I was literally just walking around in Chicago during my off times. I was walking around and just listening to the positivity, thinking of the positivity, making sure that I was blocking my brain from thinking these thoughts. And I continue to this day to say that we need we need to have a daily practice of raising our vibration. If you do not have a daily practice of this, it is going to cause you to make less money. And this is where it comes back to the founding principles of Joy Made Millionaire. I needed a couple of years in my youth to really just lock this down, to make sure that I was able to start changing the way I thought about things, to start changing how I was able to deal with negativity. And so it started kind of a passive endeavor, making sure that all negativity was drowned out by the positive audio stuff. And I had some interesting things happen at the time. I was working at a Starbucks and I had a friend, like a customer who was also a friend, who was, just kind of someone who liked to talk smack about life. And when I shared that I was listening to these things, she shut me out. She was not a person who was available for someone who was trying to improve their lives. And I, at the time, was like, is this something that I'm doing wrong? Is this actually negative? Is this something I should stop doing? But it was really, whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, my spiritual support team saying, Brian, this is actually a demonstration that you need to keep going. And so I kept listening, but I upped the ante. I had been listening to these books for some time, but now I started doing the thing that 99% of people don't do when reading these books. I started to do the exercises. Those exercises at the back of each chapter, and I have them too. I saw that Mary Jo's reading my email marketing book right now. I love that. I started doing the exercises. Mary Jo, make sure to do the exercises in that book. And that really made a big difference. I remember, if those of you who've read the woo-woo Abraham Hicks books, there are some exercises in there, like writing a check to yourself using a voided check that you weren't going to actually use, writing like an ascending value of check to yourself and what you could buy with that. Start with the $100 check and the $500 check and the $1,000 check and the $2,000 check. Just saying what you're going to get. You're going to buy the new computer, or you're going to get the new the better apartment. At the time I was living in apartments. Get the better this, get the better that. I was literally writing checks to myself in an effort to spiritually ascend to a higher level of money. And I'm sure that some of you are like, well, that's pretty funny, Brian. That's pretty weird. But obviously, some of those checks came through because I became a 7-figure business owner. And so actually going beyond just I am going to osmose these concepts and I am actually going to go do the exercises, this makes a huge difference. And so that was the next couple of years of actually writing some of these things down in a journal. I was writing my goals down in a journal. I was writing these fake checks to myself. I was doing various other exercises from these books. Exactly. As Helena says, stepping out on faith. Yes, sometimes you have to go on faith with these. What I have found is sometimes the steps to success are weird. Sometimes they're super weird, and you have to be out there doing weird things and saying weird things, and even having people look at you like you're crazy. And sometimes it yeah, sometimes it takes some time for it to work. As HD says, I love that you're not pretending this just happened, but it took some time. It absolutely did. And that's the thing I think people don't always think about. And this is why I am so commonly preaching that you need to make this a daily practice, is because it is going to take time. And I was just talking with a student who's listening on this call about, like, well, sometimes you need to clear some space for this stuff, right? First, we need to actually clear time, right? So if we are trying to learn 5 different things at once and we're trying to fit in our mindset work, we might not have time for all that. So if we aren't trying to learn 6 things, and maybe we're just trying to learn 1 thing, and maybe we're trying to learn 0 things and just focus on our mental health and our mindset, then we can easily create time and easily create space for these important endeavors, to be able to read or to listen or to actually do the exercises. And then we can easily find more space to be able to focus on these things. We can also clear clutter from our lives to create room. Make sure that you are decluttering. One of my favorite ways to declutter: put everything in your office in a bag. And so your office is completely clean, and then you unpack the bag and throw out anything that isn't necessary, or you donate it, or whatever. That's my favorite personal method for cleaning. But you're literally making space for good things to come to your life. Dolly says, the first exercise I attempted was a long-term goal to be written in the back of a journal, as in dreaming big. Imagine my surprise when it was manifested less than a year later. Such an impactful moment for me when I found that little essay in the back of my journal the following year. You can't win if you don't play. I love this comment. You can't win if you don't play. Very, very well said, Dolly. And Helena says, thank you for your honesty and telling us that it takes time. Yes, it does. It does. And it's worth the time too. Maybe you're not ready in that moment for that success. You need to become the version of yourself that can be ready, that can have the stronger identity and the stronger values to make this possible. Yes, Andy. Andy has already started the purge. I love it. I love it. I love it. So my journey started with infusing myself with as much positive, high level audio and reading content as possible. My journey continued with doing the exercises and actually trying to focus on making action happen. Third thing was getting coaching. The third thing was getting coaching. I had been building this up for years and years. I had been learning, I had been growing, and then I saw that one of the people I followed consistently on social media, someone whose book I had read and done exercises from, Pat Flynn, was having a mastermind group. And so I actually looked into, could I make this happen? And I applied, And I was accepted into the group. And then I was told that for an entire year, it would cost either $2,000 a month or $20,000 for the whole year. And it made me nervous. It made me so nervous. And my business, thanks, Helena, for subscribing. I appreciate it. It made me so nervous to commit. I had never even paid for coaching. And then the first thing that came across my desk was basically spending all of my profit, or so it seemed. It was less than the full amount of profit, but it it was a big commitment. Now, if I had just jumped in from the get-go with coaching, I don't know if I would have been ready. I think that all the reading, all the ascending my levels to a more positive state, all of the doing the exercises and growing internally and externally, all of those things allowed me to get to the point where coaching could really be valuable for me. And so I got to the point where the coaching could make a major impact, and my business really took off after getting that coaching from someone else, after having someone give me suggestions, someone who was really willing to get to know me. And that was something I always appreciated about Pat. He never came in knowing what we were going to talk about. He wanted to let the meetings just be about us, and it was so great. And so since that time, I've done one-on-one and group coaching with various people, ascending to the point that I'm now paying the most I've ever paid for coaching, nearly $100,000 over a 12-month period. And I mean, it's been so worth it, not just to get the coach, but to be in the room with the people who are at that level. And I have learned so much, and it's opened my eyes to so much. But I think it was always about opening my eyes. Back when I was starting with the reading, it was about opening my eyes to the possibility that my feelings were something I could control. And then with doing the exercises, it was about opening my eyes to the idea that I couldn't just have these ideas sink into my head. I needed to take action. It was going to take action to be happier. It was going to take action to ascend to another level. And then later, it was going to be this idea that I don't have all the answers. There are people at another level who have already figured out solutions to some various things that I may not be able to find out on my own. I need to go deep with a single person, with a coach. And all along the way, it was about opening my eyes to the possibilities. It was about looking at what was doable. And I started listening to the audiobooks 2000, 2007, 2008, was doing the exercises 2010, 2011, continuing to read, continuing to learn. And I didn't do that coaching group until 2017. And it was after that within a year of doing the coaching group, my business grew to about $750,000 in revenue. And so all of that needed to happen. Now, can it be condensed? Can it be less than 10 plus years? I think absolutely it can be. I was really resistant. But can you focus on one of these steps where you are pulling in positivity and you are surrounding yourself in a bubble of positivity? Can you then have just-in-time learning, which is something Pat has actually talked about in the past, where you're focused on learning one thing and you're doing the exercises for it? Can you get someone in your ear who knows stuff that you don't know so that you can reach an even higher level? Can you get into the room with people who are at the level you want to be at or beyond? you can take this progression. This is the progression I've used, but I'm not alone. This is a progression so many people have used to go to a higher level. And I think a lot of people like to skip. They will skip a level, and sometimes it's not in their best interest to skip those levels. They'll go straight to a coach, or they'll go straight to a course. I think a lot of people, and y'all can raise your hands on this, a lot of people go straight to a course without that self-work first. And this is where I think is the biggest challenge. This is the thing I've seen. And I haven't just seen this with authors and business owners who are just starting out. I have seen this in 6 and 7 figure business owners where they've never really done the self-work. And that self-work contributes to your self-worth. That self-work contributes to your ability to get stuff done. That self-work is what can allow you to be a better self. And I think that when you are at that point where you are actually a better, higher level version of yourself, it is a no-brainer that your results are going to improve. Your results are going to improve. They're going to increase. You're going to get better as you go. And this is going to make it so that your life can grow. So I may have lulled everybody to sleep, but I definitely see some people in here still watching live. Scarlett says, sure, we are always in a hurry. Skipping steps and looking for the silver bullet is human nature, I think. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so you need to, in a way, go against your nature to do the daily work necessary. You do the daily work so regularly that you don't even have to do it as much anymore. You do the self-work so regularly that it becomes a part of who you are. That is how you get to the very next level in your career. So I hope you enjoyed me sharing kind of that first decade plus of what I worked on to get to where I am today. If you found this helpful and you want some coaching of your own, remember, you can email me at joymademillionaire@gmail.com, or you can just drop us a line over at Best Page Forward, my company. Let us know that you're looking for some coaching. We would love to help. But I want to thank you, everyone who comes here live and checks this stuff out. Thank you to everyone who was asking questions and posting. Really, really appreciate that you give me the opportunity to do this show live. And I love, love, love getting the opportunity to share it with you. You can go to joymademillionaire.com to get our 10 ways to add joy to your business. I hope you have an amazing, amazing rest of your day. And I will talk to you very, very soon. Next week, we're going to do a slightly different time because of some time out of town. So thank you. Thanks, Andy. I'm really glad you're a part of my mastermind too. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Oh, awesome, Tara. Welcome to the show. Thank you. Take good care, everybody. And we'll talk soon, all right? Thanks. Thanks, Holly. Thanks, Sandra. Thanks, everybody. Be good, everybody. Take care. Bye.